We're back for a late night Tuesday night. We're grateful to have everybody back with us. Chris McDonald, and we're grateful to have you. And it is a wonderful privilege to have a my goddaughter. I call her that. She thinks I'm joking, but I think of her as that. Magdalene Rose is on the phone with me late tonight, kid. I know it. I wouldn't say it's past your bedtime because you're an adult now, but we won't keep you up late. It's good. Thank you for staying up with us a little bit tonight. How are you? It's been a while.
I'm good, thank you.
Well, we're excited, and Magdalene's going to be helping us sort of behind the scenes with the show in weeks to come, and she's going to be on here a lot more. And we've just, it's been a really crazy few months in scheduling, but we would have her on every week if we could. Hey, it's good to see you tonight, and just wanted to get your take on a few things. We had Brad Johnson on earlier tonight, and I was just curious what you felt about this first Middle East peace trip that Trump is on, and he's accomplished a lot. Magdalene, I tell you, I don't think I've seen, not in my lifetime. I know you only go back 2 decades. I go back 6, but I've never seen a president. I've never seen a president do as much in 4.5 months as Trump's done, and I'm just curious what you think about that, because I tell you, he's been rocking and rolling, and he rocked and rolled today in Saudi Arabia. He left with some economic promises and some agreements, and we got money coming to the U.S. We got a great deal of almost 2 million jobs promised because of this deal. But he's also basically set some things in stone with 2 ardent enemies of ours, Syria and Iran. And he's basically told the Iranians, you're either going to play ball with me or I'm going to pretty much make sure that you are bankrupt later. And that's just Trump. But from your perspective, you keep a finger on this stuff. What's your thoughts on that tonight?
Well, I think one of the reasons why Trump has gone to the Middle East is because he's going places where he's not hated anymore. He's not trying to get the UK or France to like him. And that's a huge personality shift for him, because if you think back to the first term and this time during the first term, he was very much trying to get people to like him. I think he was trying to get world leaders to like him. And he never endangered the US to do it. He never prioritized that over the US being strong. But it was definitely a thing in the background. Whereas this time, it's really just, do you like me? Are you willing to do business with me? Great, let's do it. And I think that that's a really big shift for him. And Saudi Arabia made the right choice of not being an antagonizing factor to Trump, unlike countries like Iran. So if you're peaceful with Trump and you help him get things done, he's going to treat you well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Look, I thought that the response to him was over the top in a good way. Look, the Arabs respect strength. They're not going to respond to weakness. And Trump does not go into these countries. Look, the man brought a traveling McDonald's truck with him. I mean, he played the YMCA. He played the American National Anthem. He shook the prince's hand. Joe Biden didn't even get that. He got a fist pump. The Saudi prince didn't even want to shake Joe Biden's hand when Joe Biden was over there. Trump got the purple, the red carpet, the purple carpet. He got every carpet in the Middle East going over there today, and I think it's a sign of things to come. I think that it's a good sign for our country. Do you not believe that?
I think that's true, and I think it's important because whenever Obama or anyone else would go over there, it was kind of a feeling of, well, they're going and they're going to do the best they can, but we're not really impressed with them. Whereas with Trump, it's not that. He's going over there from a position of strength. But also, think about how strong he must be in private with world leaders. For the Saudi prince, for all of these people who are going to be in power for their entire life. They don't have an election every 4 years. They don't retire. For them to sort of stand up and give Trump what he wants, or at least be respectful enough in that, he must command substantial power when he's just around them privately. And I think that's why we've seen people like Marco Rubio elevated as well. And sort of the joke now is that Marco Rubio has 4 different jobs. He's the most worked man in Washington. But that kind of private power amongst world leaders is hard to find. I think Trump and Rubio might be the only ones really with it right now.
How is Trump playing with the younger crowd, especially among Republicans? Is his popularity any different than it was the first time? I just sense that there's the media is never going to report the true sentiment out there, but I've just got a sense that he is. There's just an isolated group, a very fringe left group that don't like him. There may be a few rhinos here or there, a few right-wing people that hate his personality, but Magdalene, you can't argue with the results. I mean, my goodness. I mean, we're seeing unprecedented things happen in 4.5 months in, and if people would just be patient, look, there's no telling where we're going to be a year from now if people would just get out of his way and let him do his job. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I'm an older guy, and I mean, I'm old enough to be your daddy, not your granddaddy, but I'm old enough to be your daddy. But my generation, we're loving this. But how does the younger generation view him?
I think they look at him as somebody who is just keeping promises. And one of the things that I think the left grapples with is that the younger people like Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump because they think he was cool or whatnot. The left ran the country into the ground in a really deep way. We sort of laugh at what happened under Joe Biden, but the level of poverty, of inflation, of sort of decline that went on within 4 years was rampant. And young people felt that substantially. They also are the generation that grew up under Obama and the constant terror attacks. When I was in high school, we had terror attacks every day throughout the world. It was really nothing even special anymore because we were accustomed to people being drowned in cages or beheaded on YouTube. That was normalized under Democrats. That was never normalized under W, for example, the second Bush. He was still fighting against, he made a lot of errors, but it wasn't normalized in the same way. And it's never been normalized under Trump. Republicans respond to violence and sort of rage and things and terrorism in a very action-oriented way. Democrats just want people to get used to it. And I think young people finally broke through the get used to it vibe, and they are in the action moment with Trump.
Yeah. Did you expect China to come to the table so quickly on this tariff thing? You know, a lot of people were worried about that, but I have to tell you, I was predicting this back in February when everybody was losing their lunch, and I said, just be patient. The Chinese can talk a tough game, but they know that they're the losers in this, and Trump knew it. I think most people with conservative brains knew it, that he was doing the right thing. In Magdalene, there's an old print, you know, there's basically a rule of life that when you're doing the right thing, good things are going to happen when you're in the right. He was in the right. They were taking advantage of us, and we're seeing, again, some signs that the economy is finally turning around. We had the lowest inflation rate in 5 years this month. We have a $258 billion surplus this month for the first time in ever, and it was all due to these tariffs. And your generation, my generation, we're all going to feel this. We're feeling it at the pump. We've got lower gas prices. I know grocery prices to some may not seem lower, but they are lower. And look, I just sense a sense of optimism, too, that people are beginning to come around to say, you know, President Trump's been right about this. And he was right on these tariffs.
Well, I think that's true. And I think one of the differences is that right now China is so reliant on us as a consumer. And I don't think people realize that, yes, the United States, of course, is too reliant on China. It never should have gotten to this point. But China is massively reliant on us. It's not as if China is just a sole benefactor and there's no problem for them. There is a problem for them. And I think Trump speaks that language of truth when it comes to the Chinese leaders, particularly Xi Jinping. And he has explained to him quite clearly, your country will collapse just like ours. You're not exempt from that. In many ways, the only country that's really exempt from all of this is Russia because of the oil that they have and the isolation that they have. There is a difference there. But other countries, they have to do business with the United States or they will just sort of fall apart in terms of their economics.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm going to run a few names by you. We haven't talked in a month or so, and I think the last time we talked, Trump had just got elected, and we talked about the election and all, but we've had about 4 months to go by now. I just want to let you give us a grade card in your opinion on how certain people in his administration are doing. What's your thoughts on Pam Bondi?
I don't think she's done anything particularly interesting. I don't think she's helped in any specific way. I think she spent the majority of her time maybe cleaning up some of the messes that the Biden DOJ left, and good for her. But my problem with Pam Bondi is not necessarily Pam Bondi's fault. We were promised an overhaul of the justice system in a really substantial way. Pam Bondi was never the person to deliver that. So it's not, in my mind, really Pam Bondi's fault. If Matt Gaetz had been in that position, we would have an overhaul of the Justice Department. He's not, so we don't have that. But I think she's disappointing to diehard conservatives.
Do you think that's why they got Matt Gaetz out, that they went after him so hard, that the left was concerned about that? Because I think there was people on the right that was going after him. Because a lot of these allegations were not just coming from MSNBC. They were coming from conservative talk shows.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that there was a real fear that if they left him in, he would unearth a lot, or he would just allow his investigators to unearth a lot. Not necessarily that he knew where all the problems were, but that he would allow people to dig into it. So with him not in, it's not really like Pam Bondi's not failing. She's just not what we thought she would be.
Do you believe this idea? Because I hear this all the time. I've heard this a little bit since Trump's been in office. And again, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way people view things. It's perspective. But when Pam Bondi got nominated, somebody was out there claiming, a few voices, that that Pam Bondi was his real choice, that he really didn't care if Matt Gaetz got in. And I sort of disagree with that. I think that he wanted Matt Gaetz to do what you just described. I think Trump knows this is his final hurrah, and if he don't get this stuff corrected, there may not be nobody after him to do it. And I think that he would have been fine with Matt Gaetz being a bull in a china shop and letting it all hang out and clean this crap out. Yeah, we need it.
I agree with that, and I think that was a great moment of disappointment for him. But on the flip side of that, he was never going to get Matt Gaetz through. That was never, ever going to happen. And I sort of wonder who led him down the path of thinking that it could, because in doing that, he lost his edge a little bit. He could have picked somebody who was confirmable and not lost the steam on it. Pam Bondi was in a lot of ways a compromise candidate for people like Lindsey Graham and other Republicans, and even Republicans who I don't disagree with most of the time, who I think are very competent people. The issue with Matt Gaetz was that it was going to be a liability to vote for him for confirmation. You never want to put somebody up who that can be said about.
That's a fair statement. Cash Patel, FBI Director, Dan Bongino, Deputy FBI Director. I like Cash. I think he falls in the same category a little bit, does he not?
Well, I think he's actually doing what he can, because the issue with the FBI was not that the FBI was bad. It's that the FBI was constantly directed to do things that were ridiculous. So Cash Patel's steering people a little bit more into actual police work. I think he's doing a good job. And my evidence for that was when he was confronted with the Signalgate scandal with that group chat. What I found so interesting was that he went to Capitol Hill, he testified, but he was very clear. He said, this is not my fault, this is not my department, I'm not taking the rap for this. So the FBI under him is sort of existing in a bit of a bubble. That's a good thing. The FBI shouldn't be an agency that's involved in everything. That's a problem. So him doing that, I think he's doing better than Pam Bondi is.
Okay, staying on these two, Bondi and Patel. I asked Brad about this, I'm going to ask you about this. And I want to ask you this in the sense of how your generation, how important it is to your generation to have this done. The big scuttlebutt and the big complaint that people have about Pam Bondi is the Epstein list, and that she did not release everything as quickly as she claimed she did. I will say, interject this. I'll give you my 2 cents on it, whatever it's worth. The only thing I've got a problem with her right now, I just wish she'd stay off Fox News, because it seems like she is more of a Fox News host than she is an attorney general. And I think that maybe it's a smokescreen. Maybe the people behind her are doing a lot of stuff so the lightning rod stays on her. I don't know. But it just seems to me that I would prefer her to be doing her job. I don't have to hear from her every day on Fox News to tell me what she's doing. But that's just Chris. Do you think that she's handled the Epstein list right? And do you think that we're ever actually going to see that list, and what's going to be done about it? Because Brad and me both were sort of agreeing with this, that while the list may be released, and it needs to be released for a lot of reasons, justice coming from that list may be a different, more difficult thing. And I think that's what people are going to be left in the dust about and be disillusioned about, because Magdalene, knowing what happened, I think most of us know that there were some bad things that went down on that island, but you got to prove it. You got to prove it.
Yeah. I don't think she's handled this well because of that influencer sideshow we had at the White House, where she was, handpicking influencers to come and get files that were not really redacted, that everyone had seen before. It was ridiculous. And I think she has not enough experience operating within this sort of like deep swamp area. Operating in Florida is very different than operating in D.C. and Florida, where you have an innately conservative place and people are not necessarily communists. You don't have the level of corruption and secret burying that is going on in D.C. She's certainly not been a lightning rod for revealing the truth. I think she's probably very competent. I trust her as AG, but I don't think she's handled Epstein correctly. If she can't get it done, she should say, this isn't going to be released. But this sort of back and forth in Fox News moments, it doesn't help her.
I'll agree. We're 1,000,000% agreement with that. I think, kid, you're nailing it to the wall there. I totally agree with what you just said, and I think that's all we want out here in the American public. Magdalene, when you get down to it, it's what we've always wanted. We just want our leaders to be straight with us. There's no need to BS us. We can smell the BS a mile away. Most of us can. Just talk straight. Tell us the truth. If the files were destroyed, tell us. Okay, somebody destroyed the files. That's life. We hate it, but it's life. But don't be dragging us along, and we get to the end of this road, and you're promising us a T-bone steak, and we get a McDonald's cheeseburger without the cheese and ketchup on it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard, what's your thoughts on her? What kind of job she's doing?
Yeah, I think she's been a little bit underwhelming, and I think the Signalgate hearings were an example of that. She was not ready for the questions in those hearings, and she has routinely not been ready, and she has not looked as put together in terms of knowledge as she could. I think Tulsi Gabbard is an odd person because she has captured sort of the hearts of many conservatives, and I understand why, but at the end of the day, she is a Democrat, and I think we forget that often.
That's a good point.
And by forgetting that, it makes it difficult.
No, that's an excellent point, and I sometimes forget it too. And our mutual friend James R. Me and him both. Even when she was sort of on the radar back in 24, and her name was being circulated, James R. was telling me privately. He said, "I don't trust her. I don't trust her, and I don't trust her either." We'll have to wait and see about what happens with her. Just some general, Pete Hegseth, I think, is doing a very good job. And I think Tom Homan, of all the cabinet members that Trump's got, Holman, Hegseth, and I got to say, RFK Jr., Mag, I mean, he is doing his job. I mean, what Trump put him to do, he's doing it. And he's standing up to Big Pharma, and he's doing his best. And I would rate those three as the top three cabinet members that are doing the best job so far.
Rubio is really doing a great job. I think that he has a very difficult job in that the world has no idea what the United States was standing for or doing anymore. So his bluntness, his clarity, to me, he is the member of the cabinet doing the best job. Also because Trump is he's now National Security Advisor, he's the Chief Archivist, he's in charge of USA Aid. I mean, this is my sort of credential for this. Elon discovers that USA Aid is a slush fund. Trump signs off on it being shut down. Somehow it then gets added to Marco Rubio's workload, and he does it well. So I think Rubio is probably excelling the most in my mind, and then Hegseth. And what's interesting is the background knowledge on the Signalgate issue. There's a lot of speculation and reporting that it was sort of engineered to get Hegseth out because he's much more of an isolationist than people would like, and Mike Waltz is much more of an interventionist. Waltz lost that battle, and I think that's because at the end of the day, isolationism is sort of what the Trump White House is about.
Have you seen the Brad pointed this out tonight? He was absolutely right. Trump is not. He's not one to have a lot of patience right now. He's not playing around. If you're not doing your job, you're gone. I mean, in the first term, he let these swamp creatures stick around too long, and they would destroy him. He's not letting any grass grow under his feet. If he sees you're either betraying him or you're doing something to harm the agency or you're not doing your job, you better get your resume and get your bags back, because you're not going to stick around this go around. I think he's pulling the stops out.
He's definitely doing that. I think the reason for that is because he doesn't have any time left. I mean, this is his legacy. If he doesn't fix it, what was all of this for? This is getting towards the end of his life in terms of what he will do after this. So he doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the luxury of giving second chances anymore. And that's why the Signalgate issue was so interesting to me. Because many people could have said that he was giving Hegseth a second chance, but he wasn't. He was letting Mike Waltz sort of show himself to be a problem. And to me, that shows that Trump's not going to back away. I think Trump has a lot of faith in Hegseth. He sees Hegseth as a possible successor. So that circle tightened around to protect him.
Somebody pointed out to me earlier tonight, I was talking to a friend, and I had not really thought about this, but you don't see Jared Kushner and the daughter, Ivanka, as much as you did in the first administration. Neither one of them are really even part of this second administration. You got any thoughts on that, why that came about? Maybe they're behind the scenes, but you do not see them at all in any kind of discussion about policy like you did before. Jared was a big architect of these Abraham Accords. His fingerprints are not on this second administration.
No, they're not. And what's interesting is that Chris Christie, who I know we don't like now, and he's sort of gone down a bad path, but thinking back to 2016, he was very instrumental for Trump in sort of defeating Marco Rubio and defeating the neocon base, helping Trump shore up support there by humiliating Rubio on the debate stage. And when Trump won, Christie was very briefly the head of Trump's transition team, and then it was Mike Pence was assigned to it. And the problem that happened was, and I think this is what we can trace back to a lot of the personnel issues, Chris Christie wanted to pack the cabinet with loyalists. He wanted people to go in and have been Trump supporters for years or had supported no one politically and then Trump. And he was pushed out because he put Jared Kushner's father in jail when he was a prosecutor, and everybody knows that. And Chris Christie has said that, and Jared Kushner has not really denied it. So that was the issue. Once that happened, it became a cabinet of weak people and neocons. And I think that Jared Kushner not being in there this time changes everything.
For the good or bad?
Just for the good, because his lack of presence means that there's real strength.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good point. That's why I'm paying you the big bucks, kid. To come on here and espouse your wisdom to this old man here that can, you have to show him. You got to write these things down in crayon, Rose, for me, as compared to other people. You got to lead me down like a first grader. So I just want you to know you're doing a great job of that tonight. I try to get her to laugh. I don't know if she's laughing on the other end of the phone. If I could see her face, I could see if she's laughing at that. Hey, couple of quick things. If you had to rate the top 3 accomplishments that Trump has hit the greatest home run for since he's been in office in 4 months, what would they be? What would be the top 3 things you say that you can point to these 3 things to say that Trump has really done the best job at?
Well, to continue to release hostages released to the countries I didn't even know were holding hostages. And I think that was a strength in the first term. No one could really deny it. It's a strength in this term, but even more so because apparently during Biden's 4 years of terror, the countries around the world that were hostile to us just scooped up American citizens and nobody cared. So I think that was a major victory, specifically the men he got out of Russia, negotiations with him. And then I think in addition to that, sort of having to rebuild from everything Biden left him, rebuilding, getting ICE back into cities so quickly is a major victory. I would say those 2. And then in addition to that, the deal he has struck with El Salvador's president, I think Marco Rubio brokering part of that, to use that prison as a place to house illegal migrants here who have committed crimes or felonies. To me, if you are Donald Trump, you have finally created a deterrent to criminal behavior in the United States, because the choice now might be you go to Alcatraz or the Supermax prison in El Salvador. And I don't think anybody wants either of those.
Yes, excellent point. You think the illegal immigration issue has been his biggest strength?
I think foreign policy has been his biggest strength. I think he's lagging behind in deportations. I think that he has an issue with getting continuous funding for it. But his biggest strength has to be foreign policy, because getting these hostages back, it's not just good publicity. The amount of negotiations, Steve Witkoff as the man in charge of that with hostage negotiations, who I think will likely become the permanent national security advisor, that team of people has been top-notch. And what was so interesting to me was I watched Marco Rubio's Senate confirmation hearing for Secretary of State. And if you look at the difference, he was confirmed unanimously. You look at the difference between how he was spoken to versus Hegseth, both pretty substantial cabinet jobs. I think Secretary of State's a little above Secretary of Defense, but the top line of cabinet positions. So Marco Rubio was spoken to like a genius, and people wanted to go over the nuance of issues. Cory Booker and him were discussing the Sudan. There was a lot of dialogue, versus Mazie Hirono yelling at Pete Hegseth and calling him a drunk. So to me, that foreign policy team headed up by Marco Rubio, he has the advantage that he earned being a remarkable person. of complete Senate support. So because of that, Trump is able to achieve even more within foreign policy.
Okay. Well said. Well said. I see your point. Do you have a problem with them getting this plane from Qatar? There's a lot of people losing their lunch over that. I don't see a big deal about it. From your perspective, is Magdalene Rose the great Magdalene Rose? Do you see a big deal about it? I think it's as we say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You take the gift.
Yeah. No, I have an issue with it. I mean, if we're going to start looking at gifts that were given pretty much to politicians, the idea that Donald Trump is the issue is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. When we're looking in comparison with what Hunter Biden got, I know. Don't understand how anybody could be thinking this is an issue. Also, Trump is not hiding it. He's like, yeah, they're giving this to me because I don't want to spend the $6 billion to make it. So that to me is the core difference. Donald Trump owns it. He's like, yeah, it's a cool, nice thing. It disarms the controversy when someone owns what's happening like he is.
Very much so. Very much so. A couple of other quick things. I'll let you go. What is your thoughts about these South African white farmers that are being actually brought back to the country, and the media is trying to call these people white supremacists when it's basically an apartheid state down there, Magdalene, that's basically targeted whites, and Trump let them in, and now the media is screaming. I didn't know that MSNBC was that concerned about refugees and letting them in the country like they are now. Wow, let's talk about it.
I think it's a good thing because it sort of realigns what a refugee is. A refugee is supposed to be somebody who is under siege because of something they cannot change, whether that's their gender, their religion, because you really shouldn't, because of human rights, have to change your religion, their ethnicity. Those things that make someone a marker in that they've done nothing, they're just a marker and they're being attacked. That's what a refugee is. A refugee is not somebody who's unhappy with the job situation in Mexico and wants to cross the border to work in Texas. That's not a refugee. That's an economic migrant. So the difference here is that Trump is reclaiming the word refugee. Democrats are upset about this because if Americans realize there are refugees who can assimilate, then that means they'll realize how much they've been taken advantage of with the refugees the left has championed, which are not refugees, they're economic migrants.
Very, very, very true. One final question. Going forward, where do you think Trump needs to focus his attention on getting? Right now, it seems that he's got the economy in his crosshairs to get this economy going. I know that there are legal things that he's keeping close to his vest, and I've just got a sense that all literal hell is about to fall down on these deep staters, Mag. I do. I just think something big is coming. Look, they indicted this federal judge today up in Wisconsin. I was shocked. I thought that they were going to probably, walk behind her and say, okay, we've made our point. We're going to let you go back and sin no more. But they indicted her. And I think that Trump he's getting ready to lay the law down and clean some house about some of this stuff that needed to have been addressed for 5 years now. But where do you think that does he continue on this economic push, or do you think that he changes focus at some point here in the very near future as we get into this midpoint of his first year of his second term?
Well, I think it's okay to stay focused on the economy. He has to, because the economy at the end of the day is what matters. But I think he's lagging behind in deportations. The numbers all indicate that he's not performing like he needs to with illegal immigration. In terms of stopping new illegal immigration, he's doing very well. But in fixing what's already happened, that's an issue. And I think that needs to be expedited. There is upsetment in the young conservative world. There's upsetment amongst independents who voted for him because they're tired of their communities being overrun by illegal migrants, with the slowness of that. If there's anything that could cause him to lose a little bit of enthusiasm of his base, it's the lagging in that area.
Okay. Overall, A, B, C, D, E, F, what's your grade for him first 4 months?
I think an A-, because I think that he promised very much on illegal immigration, and he isn't doing enough. to round up the people who are here in a dangerous capacity. And I will just tell you, the numbers are they're not matching where they need to. He's got to be busing people out, returning them to their countries of origin en masse. Until that happens, he's gonna always be in danger of losing his enthusiasm edge with his base.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about to see. I tell you what, we're going to have this conversation again, because you're going to be on quite a bit this year, but maybe in a few months when we get into the summer, we'll see. I'm sort of giving this all to July the 4th myself. I figure that by then he'll be in office 6 months, and to me that's you're gonna have a good litmus test of what's to come. I think by then we'll just have to play it by ear. Kid, we love you like our own daughter, and I appreciate you staying up late with me. I know it's late. I'm gonna let you go and get some rest. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow, and I'll see you. We'll have you back on next week or the next. We'll pick a night to have you come on and give your weekly Mag Rose report, okay? We've been grateful to have you tonight. You be safe where you're at now, okay? And be safe.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Mag. God bless, friend. Magdalene Rose, our beautiful goddaughter. I tell you, she's a precious kid. She is absolutely the most precious young lady. Smart beyond her years, and I was hoping that it wasn't too late for her to come on tonight, and she answered the call, and I deeply appreciate it. Dennis Floyd was out there. He said he just loves these late night rounders. I like it too, Dennis. I like these late night get-togethers. I'm more fired up now than I am in the early birds. I've got some videos we're going to show you in a minute. We got a few funnies. I've got one video I'm going to probably get in trouble for. But I'm going to lower the screen here to talk to you. I know Jenny's back out there, so I got to do this for her.
Understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? If you like Magdalene Rose, put some fire in that house. And it is
elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. It is elementary. All right, let me get to some of this crazy world we're in. Lord have mercy. Where do I start? This is President Trump today, and he gets a handshake. I want you to look at this. This is him in Saudi Arabia. Now, I want you to watch Joe Biden at the bottom. Joe Biden gets a fist pump. Here's Trump. Here's Trump. I don't know who put the video together. I didn't put the music. But look at there. Look at there. There's the handshake. And that's the difference between Trump and Biden. I don't know who put the "my heart will go on" stuff. That's a little creepy. But you get the picture. People may, and folks, this is another thing. I might as well get this off my chest. You got people out there already making a big deal about the color of those steps and the color of Trump's tie, and making all sorts of QAnon connections, trying to make Q out of this and Trump this. And I wish these con men and con women and insane, ignorant wretches of people would get a life and stop it. Joe Biden walked down the same steps, and Trump walked down the same steps. I don't know. It looks like Joe Biden had a purple tie on when he came. Trump's got a purple tie. So what? I don't care if it's polka dot yellow, polka dot green, polka dot gray. Some folks need some mental help. The issue is that we got respected today on the world stage, and we didn't get embarrassed by our leader. And we didn't get embarrassed by our leader. And the Saudis were grateful that he was there. And I'm grateful that he was there. And I'm grateful that he got the deal that he got. And $660 billion is coming into the U.S. economy. Here is the signing today of that deal. And Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi prince, this is him and Trump. This is going to mean billions of dollars into our economy. 2.12 million jobs is coming because of this. Now, you heard Brad say it tonight that this was already pre-set up before Trump got there, which is good. Trump wasn't going to travel all the way over there and not have something to do. But this was a big day for our country. And but that's them today earlier. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's almost 2 minutes. But you get the idea. That was them signing this economic agreement. This trip was about economics. And good for President Trump. Good for President Trump. I'm grateful that this all went down like it did today. We've got several videos here. Let me see if I can refresh the page. I thought we had more than this. There we go. There we go. Here is something you didn't see. We played it on the audio. We played the audio clip of this today. Vintage Trump. Roll the tape. Trump was basically telling them we want peace. And look at them. They give him a standing ovation. They give him a standing ovation, folks. I can tell you this, that wouldn't have happened with Kamala Harris. I'm not so sure she'd have even been welcomed over there. It's just the way it is. It's the way the world is. Trump was welcomed and he was given a standing ovation. I can't remember that ever happening from an American president. This is, we're going to get to the South African thing. This is interesting. Qatar is his next location, and this is something that needs to be addressed. I hope he addresses it with the government, and we'll have more on this tomorrow on the radio show, and then if we do a new show Wednesday evening, it'll be early. And then Thursday night, we've got double features coming again.
American universities taking money from the Qatari regime have 300% more instances of anti-Semitism compared to American universities not taking money.
Is that just because of more exchange students, or is there something more than that?
I think it's the use of soft power. It's funding certain institutes and professors in the classroom and connected to the encampment. SJP comes out of AMP, which is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And we're calling for investigations into the funding of these anti-democratic, anti-American, sexist, homophobic, and genocidal anti-Semites funding our university.
And I hope that Trump addresses that with the Qatari government. I saw Hannity tonight. They had just left for Qatar. He had interviewed President Trump today. We'll have some clips of that in the next couple of days of that interview with Hannity. Because we had so much to share with you tonight. But 300% more anti-Semitic events on colleges that is getting money from Qatar. They've been financing these Hamas protesters. I want you to listen carefully. This is Bibi Netanyahu. And Wednesday or Thursday night, we got Carla Nicole coming, but we're going to be doing a special sometime Thursday on Israel's 77th anniversary. I asked Brad Johnson tonight a question. I was just curious what his thoughts were about Israel and Trump not visiting her this go around. The embassy in Tel Aviv was moved to Jerusalem during her 70th year in 2017 or 2016. And but this year there's not really any event, so it's interesting. But this is Benjamin Netanyahu, and I've got some things to say about it after I play this. I want you to listen to what Bibi said. This is way back in 1978, and we're going to be talking about this quite a bit this week. Because I'm about people are tired of these anti-Semitic religious voices out there. And folks, let me just say this, and I'm going to bring the screen back into my camera just for a second. Jew-hating con men who pose as prophets and pose as radio hosts and pose as network hosts, and they're nothing but Jew-haters, you need to avoid at all costs. You need to reject every word they say. I don't care how much they quote you the Bible or how much one scripture they take and twist it like a Leviathan snake. The devil twists scripture all the time. He twisted it to the Lord himself. He quoted the Bible to Jesus, trying to get him to jump off a cliff. Let me tell you something, folks. I've always wondered what that verse meant in one of the epistles where I think it's John, and it was talking about false doctrines and the spirit of Antichrist and those that partake. If you are a partaker of their deeds, you are guilty of the same thing. Basically, John is saying they that are partakers of these false prophets and partakers of these things that are being said, you're just as guilty as they are, and you're going to be held to the same account. And this is not our face show tonight, but I've got to say this because it's just eating at me like a cancer tonight, watching these Jew-hating, ignorant, Bible misquoting con men sway gullible people that don't know the Word of God, that have no clue about Israel. They blame Israel. You've got literal people out there calling themselves Christians, blaming Israel, claiming they're shooting Palestinians, slaughtering Palestinians, even tonight in the Gaza Strip, never condemning the violence of Hamas. They have not one time spoken a word, not one single word of condemnation about the violence of Hamas. That young man, Edon Alexander, that came back yesterday, he was put in a cage. He was tortured. He was beaten. He was there 582 days, from October of 23 till tonight, nearly a year and a half. I've not heard one prophet yet, not one, condemn Hamas's violence. There's a few, but the ones that people fall down and fawn over, and they pass their videos out like cotton candy to everybody, they're out there basically sounding no better than the most vilest of anti-Semites. I've got a clip, and I'm going to save it to the late show because the kids that listen to us at 8 and the early bird cannot handle what I got to play. But one of these late night shows, I may play it on McJustice Friday night, and I'm just going to tell you, the McJustice show is going to be a little edgy, and if you don't like edgy, it's best you just sit at the house and, you know, we'll handle it from here. And I don't mean that catty, but we get complaints. You know, we put something out there and we can't control what people say, and people get offended by it. And we warn them even ahead of time before we warn them. Even after we warn them, they still listen to it and then still get offended. So we're telling you 3 days out that Friday night show is going to be a little rough because a lot of these videos are rough and the language is, you know, we don't like the language. Wish we could keep it clean of the language. I'm trying to do a better job of watching the language on our show. But regardless, I'm going to play you a clip of one of the vilest anti-Semites that is out there on that internet. And the things he said is going to blow you away. And then I watch some of these religious channels, or so-called, I'll put that in quotations. These Jewish hating con men, these basically anti-Semitic con men, I don't hear any difference. They're no better. But I want you to listen to Bibi Netanyahu, folks. He puts this Israeli-Arab conflict in perspective. This is why what Trump's doing in the Middle East is important, because these agreements, folks, are going to help bring stability, at least for a season, to that region. When America's right and America is leading, the world is right and the world stays at peace, at least to a degree. When America does not have leadership and America does not lead, the world goes up in smoke. And I want you to listen to what Bibi Netanyahu said. This is way back in 1978. This was 1 year. I'll let the video speak for itself if I can find it. I just was looking at it. And there it is right there. There's Bibi. Young Bibi Netanyahu. You may not even recognize him now. 1978, the current Prime Minister of Israel, talking about Egypt and the things concerning what happened then and what's happening now.
Let me quote you what the PLO Information Office said in a Dutch paper in 1977, in May 5th.
77?
May 5th, 1977, yes. The statement was very simple. Our objective remains the destruction of the Zionist state of Israel. So let's keep in mind that what we're talking about here is not the attempt to build a state, but to destroy one.
Do the Palestinians have a right to a separate state?
Now, no one is denying that there are Palestinian Arabs. There's a very distinguished Palestinian Arab sitting right next to me. But the Palestinians themselves, in the Palestinian National Covenant, the very first article, say that the people of Palestine, quote, are part of the Arab nation. Well, let's look at the Arab nation. It has 21 states, an area roughly the size of the United States, and 1/6 of the entire world's wealth. Now, add to that the fact that there already exists a Palestinian state, and that is Jordan, 60% of whose population is Palestinian. I think it's quite interesting that Yasser Arafat and King Hussein, who are bitter enemies, agree on one thing, that Jordan is a Palestinian state. So what we're talking about is a demand for a 22nd Arab state and a second Palestinian state.
What should be done with the Palestinians on the West Bank? That's a problem, so what should be done?
What should be done?
Well, I think that the Palestinians in the West Bank are going to be offered the full human rights, the full civil rights, as no Arabs are offered in the Middle East. No Arabs whatsoever have any full human rights or the right to vote for their own government. Those Arabs who lived in Israel in the pre-67 boundaries are the only Arabs in the Middle East who offer that right, and I'm all in favor of having the same Arabs living in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip being offered such a right in the final peace agreement.
Can we have peace in the Middle East?
Very briefly, please.
Yes, I sincerely hope so. Look, I'm 28 years old. I've had to defend my country in 2 wars and in many battles. Nobody wants peace more than Israel. But the stumbling block to the road for peace is this demand for a PLO state.
Thank you.
Which will mean more war.
Thank you.
Which will mean more violence in the Middle East. And I sincerely believe, if this demand is abandoned, we can have real and genuine peace.
Thank you.
And I'm glad he said that. And listen to me tonight. Listen to me tonight. We're going to be talking about this Thursday. Thursday is the 77th year. Israel has been fighting for its existence for nearly 77 years over this one issue. Bibi Netanyahu got it right. 78 to 25, what is that, 47 years ago now? Yeah, 47 years. He got it right. The obstacle to peace has been the demand of the Arab world for a Palestinian state. Now, I don't know what Trump told Syria tonight. Brad had some thoughts on what he believes he told Syria. We'll find, I'm sure, we'll find the details of the fine print in the weeks and days to come. We wasn't privy to the conversations behind the cameras that he had with the Saudis today. A lot of this was more economic than political. But I can tell you this right now, these Abrahamic Accords call for the establishment of a Palestinian state. And if Trump pushes for that, he's bringing a element into this that will defeat the very purpose of what he's wanting to do and to bring peace. Bibi's got it right. I've heard some of the most vile comments about Bibi Netanyahu. There was nothing that I heard in that statement that was outside the realm of reasonable an understanding and a reasonable understanding of this position of Israel in the Middle East. And you heard him, folks. The Arabs that live in Israel that are not full of hatred, they will tell you that they stay in Israel because they're treated with respect by the Israeli government. They have civil rights. They have rights to exist. Israel is not an apartheid state. And I've got news for these anti-Semitic, Jew-hating con men who pose themselves as prophets, and I don't even know what some of these people are, Telegram page cleaners or Telegram page hosters or whatever they think they are. This idea that Israel is the one gunning down Palestinians and gunning down the Gaza Strip and destroying all these innocent lives, and they're slaughtering Palestinians by the thousands. Let me tell you something. The Palestinians have been the ones that have been fomenting this violence, demanding their own state when they had a state in Jordan. And what he said, folks, if you can catch that video, we're going to post that video in Telegram. If you can memorize that video, you can answer every anti-Semitic argument that's out there tonight, neighbor. The Palestinians had their state. They have a state. Were not able to stay in that state. Do you know why? Because they fomented the same violence in their own state that they're fomenting tonight. Do you know that the Gaza Strip was never, ever, ever the Palestinians? It was always Israel's. You can thank George W. Bush Jr. and the late Ariel Sharon for that nonsense. Because we need to give up land for peace. And Bush Jr.'s daddy, George H.W. Bush, was the architect of the first land for peace deal that basically blew up in the face of the American government, and the Middle East has been paying a price for it ever since. It was paying a price for it long before. But what you just heard in that little 2-minute video, folks, Bibi's got it right. Bibi Netanyahu is called every name in the book by every leader of the world in the book. The man understands the situation. Now, you don't have to like him no more than you got to like Trump. I respect Mr. Netanyahu. I had a dream about him. Maybe I have to share it with you sometime. Had it about a year or two ago. Actually, I take that back. I had it back before Dad died, so that would have been 21. That was been 4 years ago. Dream stays with me to this day. Dream stays with me to this day. That's how powerful and vivid it was. God's got his hand on Bibi Netanyahu, and God's going to use Bibi, I believe, in these last days. I don't know if the man is truly a believer. I would tend to believe he's not. He's Jewish. But I will tell you this, he respects Christians, and all these lies and all these things that you hear about Israel and the way they treat Christians is false. And let me tell you this, neighbor, they've never treated the Palestinians anything with utmost respect and gave them civil rights. Ask any person that's without the hate, without the anti-Semitism, and without an agenda, how the Palestinians have been treated. The Palestinians themselves will tell you we've had the best conditions under the Israelis. They will not even live in their own Arab countries because he said it right. They don't have those same rights. So I pray tomorrow, at some point in this business venture that Trump is going on, and I say that with all due respect, I believe what he's doing, trying to fix his economy, is absolutely needed and necessary. But he needs to address the civil rights issues with these Arab countries. He does. And he needs to address this issue with Qatar funding the anti-Semitism on these college campuses. It needs to be addressed. But what you just heard, folks, is an issue that's going to be solved temporarily by this coming man. I'm talking to my Bible students who I will see you in about 11 hours or 10 hours because it's already after midnight. But we've been talking about this man of sin for almost 6 months now, 7 months, 8 months, 2 years, 3 years. Almost 400 Bible studies in the book. Can you believe that? We've had 400 Bible studies since 2022. It's amazing. Time flies when you're having fun. Well, this coming man of sin is going to solve this very issue that he just talked about. But see, he sees the impediment to peace being the demand for a Palestinian state. And I can tell you this, that no peace deal that includes that demand is going to work. No peace deal that demands that is going to work. And for however this Antichrist figure is going to do it, he's going to solve it temporarily. But the spirit of Antichrist is pushing Israel off that land tonight. And the spirit of Antichrist pushes for Israel to give up her land in hopes of peace. It's a false peace. It's a false peace. And Bibi got it. And as I say,
elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. I could have played that about 6 times. I may just play it 3, just for one for me, one for Bibi, and one for you. Play it again. There we go.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
I'll amen myself on that. You need to remember that. Here is, you got to love Democrats. You just got to love these Democrats. My goodness. Here is CNN today, all of a sudden wondering why we're letting refugees into the country. I didn't realize they were so concerned about us letting immigrants in. I thought that they wanted all immigrants to come in. I'm just shocked at the change of heart that CNN had today. Roll the tape.
The Trump administration has made it virtually impossible for many refugees to come to the United States, but the president is making a special exception for a group of 59 white South Africans who have now been granted refugee status. They arrived at Dulles Airport just outside of Washington, D.C. on a charter flight that was paid for by the U.S. government. The Trump administration approved their applications in just under 3 months. That is much faster than the normal process, which can take years. The president and his top advisor, Elon Musk, who is South African, have made allegations that white farmers in the country are being discriminated against under land reform policies. Now, South Africa's government says those policies are necessary to remedy the legacy of apartheid and calls the allegations of discrimination unfounded and completely false. The Episcopal Church, which has worked for decades to resettle refugees, says they will not be helping this time around, calling it painful to watch one group of refugees receive preferential treatment over many others who have been waiting in refugee camps or in dangerous conditions for years. But the White House says this is the beginning of a much larger relocation effort, guys.
Yeah. Will it be just from South Africa? Will it be other countries where you have other minorities?
And that's the point that many Democrats are making, that there are a lot
no,
of
that's let me stop her right there. That's the point they're making. The Democrats don't have the brains to make this point. Let me put this in perspective for you folks. The All But Crap Network is basically saying, well, we shouldn't let these people in because there's just allegations that they're trying to be killed. Well, let me play President Trump's response to this. I may have played this last night, but it's worth playing again. And this is a late night Mac Files, folks. Stay with us as long as you can. It's better than Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert and all that other crap bunch. You're getting something to chew on tonight. You're getting some good old McDonald late night coffee and vittles. Roll the tape. They're being killed.
We don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about.
They don't want to write about it.
That's taking place. And farmers are being killed. They happen to be white. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
This is MSNBC's take on it. Nicole Wallace's. I got another video to play after this. This is the insanity of the media. So it's okay to bring gangbangers, rapists, murderers, pedophiles, traffickers, thieves, crooks, robbers, basically the worst of the worst, gang members, fentanyl pushers, drug dealers. Bring them. You heard Michael Strahan, the dumb blank from ABC. Well, there's other countries where minorities in we're not letting in. No, Mike, it ain't minorities. It's crooks and criminals and gangs. And you all were making it a racial thing. When white folks need to come in to escape an apartheid government, by the way, I got to find the video. I got it on my X account. They got the head of the South African government saying they're going to kill white folks. So Trump said, come on in. But the media's got a problem with it. This is MSNBC's take on it. You're going to hear a word you heard a lot during the first term of Trump. White supremacists. Roll the tape.
Trump has virtually halted refugee admission in America for people fleeing war and famine in places like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Back with Rick, Mark, and Eddie. Rick Stingle.
Yes, it's so deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history, apartheid. They're not directly responsible for it, but it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. something called a Bantustan policy, where they moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing, white supremacist movements around the world. That it's like the lost cause for them. It's like the old Confederacy. They're held up as these white Christians who are being dispossessed of their land. It's like this is a modern replacement theory in a country where, by the way, white people make up 7% of the population and own 78% of the farmland. So it's actually, there's no injustice here. As you mentioned,
the only injustice is that you all have a platform to spew this garbage about. I can't even stomach the rest of it. Let me give you the South Georgia translation of what he's saying, and they've got it wrote out here. The asylum seekers are only welcome here in America in their world as long as they're not white. And that these seekers are descendants of white supremacists. You hear the word Christian in there? Traditionalists. Any group. See, the Obama administration did this when ISIS was cutting the heads off of Christians. Christians were wanting to come back to America, flee to America. These were Muslims, not Muslims, but these were Christians caught behind the lines in Syria. So the Obama administration cut off migration into our nation, and it basically trapped thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians and condemned them to their death by doing it. Very similar to the British White Paper of 1938 that had stopped Jewish immigration into Britain because the Jews were fleeing Europe from Hitler's arm, and they cut that off and condemned millions of Jews to their death. I can't stomach any more of this. This is the nothing but crap blanking blank network. This is their view. By the way, speaking of that, I want to show you this image, and then I'm going to show you the video. But this was from the Twitter handle. See that cross right there? That was planted for every white farmer that has been murdered in South Africa, forming a massive memorial. Look at that. The legacy media ignored it because it don't fit their narrative. Now they gaslight the American public, conveniently forgetting that Trump stepped in to help these farmers. And I'll just go back over here to where I'm seeing that at, and I'm going to read the whole tweet. It's on our X account. Well, actually, that's it. Before they met the same fate. Here is the video of this. Let me play the video for you because they've got a video that sort of shows this in more graphic detail. And where is it at? I just had it. This is the video of that still shot right there. If you'll give me 1 second, I've got it here. Again, the media is completely solid about this. Oh, here it is right here. Roll the tape. This is South Africa today. Every one of those graves has been a farmer that's been murdered by this government. And you heard Trump, he don't care what color skin they are. It's genocide. Thank you, Cleo. It's genocide. And that, folks, is something that we call moral clarity by President Trump to see the need to bring them in. And the media is claiming that all these allegations are just allegations. Well, I tell you what, Chris is just a South Georgia boy, so we went to the jackass's mouth, the donkey's mouth, the horse's mouth. This is the head of the South African government. Roll tape.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we have not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal
cry babies. cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give you a guarantee of the future.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. Let me roll that back. I'm just a South Georgia boy. And the media, Nicole Wallace, these are just baseless allegations, as CNN said. Or MSN. I got to play the CNN tape. That was ABC, NBC. I'm going to play something from CNN. These are just baseless allegations that this black government's wanting to slaughter white people.
To kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, we have not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter, they freak out. It sounds like a genocidal thing.
Cry babies.
Cry baby.
Cry babies.
I'm not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now.
I can't give you a guarantee of the future, especially when things are going the way they are.
Subtext.
Especially if things are going the way they are, there will be a revolution in this country, I can tell you now.
We are not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. That means at some future date, we may call for the slaughter of white people. Is that correct?
Let's deal with that at that future date. I don't know what's going to happen.
So you're saying you are not ruling out that in the future you may very well call for the slaughter of white people?
It may not be me.
Could it be you?
It could be me, yes, but it may not be me.
Yeah, so it could be you. You could, at some future date, call for the slaughter of white people.
Shoot to kill the mother, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer.
Sounds like killing to me, folks. Sounds like killing to me. I guess we need to draw this in crayon for the imbeciles at CNN tonight. This is Scott Jennings, who I think should run for Kentucky Senator. He's going to run to replace Mitch McConnell. I don't see how he does it and keeps a straight face. I would lose my religion, lunch, and my everlasting mind to have to sit on the table with these imbeciles. Roll the tape.
And part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They are. They're leaving to come here.
No. They can
These
leave
refugees
and go,
are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you
or
against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland.
Yeah, they're against them coming here. By the way, if you'll look at this, this is a Biden-Harris staffer that says white South Africans should go back to their native land of Germany or Holland. It's amazing to me that people are being slaughtered in a genocide in South Africa and they need to go back to their native land. But illegals in our country don't need to go back to their native land. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Liberalism is a mental disorder. Liberalism is a mental disorder.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Liberalism is a mental disorder. And you need help. You need help. You understand? I don't care what policy advisor. No wonder this country is messed up in the head with people like this advising policy. And they're fine with allowing violent gang members and terrorists into our country, but don't send them back to their native land. But the South African families that are being slaughtered, by the way, I don't know if you noticed that video clip. Did you notice that all the South African had American flags in their hands and they were waving the American flag? Folks, they got more patriotism You can't even get a Democrat to wear the American flag. You can't get a Democrat to name the name of God. You can't get a Democrat to believe in anything that's pro-American. You got a bunch of South Africans that are not even Native Americans. They've already got American flags, thankful to God that they're here, that their lives have been saved. And that's not counting the lives that have already been lost in this genocide. But I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a growing story in the weeks to come. The parallels between this and what has happened to the Jews in the past and what's going to happen to them in the future is almost eerily very scary. Same argument. Same argument. Same argument. And President Trump chose life, and he needs to be commended for it. Almost done for tonight. Here is Hakeem Jeffries. By the way, the other thing that's going on are these godless and lawless Congress people that got arrested. Here is one that's about to get expelled from Congress. There was a resolution passed tonight by Buddy Carter. And Buddy Carter is my buddy. I don't know who he is. He filed a new House measure to remove Robert Menendez, that's Bob Menendez's boy, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and LaMonica McIver, because they were the ones that stormed the Newark, New Jersey ICE facility. And there's video out there. In fact, I think I may play it. We played the sound bite to it on the radio yesterday, but you didn't get to see it last night because we ran out of time. Let's see if we can find that. This is sort of unrelated to that. No, here it is. No, this is it. We did play this last night, come to think of it. Let me just remind you. McIver is in the red coat, if you can see this.
All my people
Hey, you keep escalating. You keep escalating. Back off. Stay there. Man, stay there. Come on. Asma. It's the same ones. It's the same ones.
That video is not the actual video that was later filmed. You had this one. She was in that same red jacket, by the way. They all ran to CNN. They're about to be expelled from Congress. They need to be charged criminally. But you got to listen to Hakeem Jeffries tonight threatening the ICE agents and threatening anybody that goes after these. Listen to this crap, and then we're going to take your questions tonight. I'm enjoying a late night. Macfall smack. Listen to this.
Incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them during the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do? I mean,
They'll
what
find out.
of course. I mean, but doesn't that broach a?
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across?
That's a red line.
What's the red line? I mean, I know we have the.
It's a red line. It's very clear. First of all, I think that the so-called Homeland Security spokesperson is a joke. It's a joke. They know better than to go down that road, and it's been made loudly and abundantly clear to the Trump administration.
Do you understand what you just heard? There's about 50 more seconds of this crap. He's not telling the people that tried to tear down the gate and beat up ICE agents and break into the Newark facility that they need to not go down that road. No, he's talking to the ICE agents trying to keep them out of that road. This is the lawless party of the Democrats. Roll the tape.
We're not going to be intimidated by their tactics to try to force principled opposition from not standing up to their extremism.
Principled opposition to their extremism. Would somebody out there please tell me tonight What is extremism when you have got a facility that is housing the worst? These, by the way, this was. I wish I had the. I'm trying to find the video of Campos Duffy, the lady from Fox News on Saturday. She visited this facility and asked the head of the facility who was housed here. And folks, these are like 5 being the worst, 1 being the least violent. These were level 7 kind of violent criminals that were housed in this facility. So the principled opposition to gangbangers and the principled opposition to ICE housing them and jailing them is what he's talking about there. You need to understand words are important and put them in perspective, just like these Jew-hating con men that pose as prophets and pose as Telegram page holders. Roll the tape.
Happened during the entirety of this failed term. It didn't happen when Donald Trump temporarily was sitting high in the immediate aftermath of the election. Do you think it's going to happen now, when he's the most unpopular president in American history after his first 100 days? Give me a break.
The most unpopular president? Are you kidding me, Hakeem? Are you kidding me? This is how they lie. This is how they twist. This is why their party's got an approval rating of 16%.
No one's intimidated by this dude. No one. And so there are clear lines that they just dare not cross.
We're going to cross him, Hakeem. We're going to cross him, brother. We're going to put every one of your sorry carcasses in jail. How about that one? And you better be having visitation rights to Miss McIver and Mr. Menendez and the other one and the other loser. And the mayor of New York. They need to be stripped of their office. They need to be in jail. They probably need to be charged with assault, some of them. McIver especially. And you can run to CNN and cry to MSNBC and cry to NBC and ABC and all these other faux pas networks all you want to, Hakeem. Your party sucks. People would rather have herpes than be a Democrat right now. This is AOC.
Breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there,
I'm scared.
A finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
We're going to have a problem, AOC. We're going to have a problem. Play that again.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress.
If anyone's breaking the law, going into a detention center they were told not to go into and tearing fences down and slapping ICE agents and pushing them and assaulting, it's not members of Congress, AOC says. It's Tom Homan and Kristi Noem.
The Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
This is why Chris drinks, and I don't drink. This is why we have directions on shampoo. This is why we have directions on Pop-Tarts for AOC. This is why I shake my head at you people in New York that would elect that to Congress. This is why I shake my head at you New Yorkers who would elect Hakeem Jeffries to Congress. This is why I shake my head at you Texans that you would elect Jasmine Crockett to Congress. Have you lost your natural-born freaking minds? Are you meth-induced? Are you spiritually induced? What fog are you in? That you would go into a voting booth and even seriously pull a lever for this. But you do. And they've got power over our government. But don't lay a finger. If you lay a finger, I'm going to... Bring it on, AOC. Bring it on.
Elementary, Watson.
By the way, she's got her own problems. She's going to wind up in jail herself. Understand something. And let the heathen rage, folks. That's what I got to say about it. This is Late Night Mac Files, and it is what it is. I've got to show you. I got to find that video. This is gonna be a little rough. This is for all. This I got to go out with a funny video tonight because it is a Tuesday night late night smack. This is for all you cat lovers. The British know how to make comedy. They don't have a stick up their backside like we Americans do. They can laugh at themselves. But this is to lighten the load a little bit of the dark stuff we've had to cover tonight. I'll just roll the tape. The adults in the room, you'll find this funny. Roll the tape.
Trained to a very high standard.
This is for you cat lovers.
Leads its master along safely. Making a wide detour of natural hazards. The guide cat is ever aware that its first duty is the care and safety of its master. The guide cat is also trained to remain poised and calm, whatever. Where to stop and wait for a number 53 and the busy highways can be a danger to life and limb. Until at last it guides its thankful master back to the security and comfort of his own home.
Okay. Whatever. Whatever. I thought it was funny. The British know how to do it. After the stuff you just saw, I thought you could handle that. Emelina can handle it. If you got a statement or a question tonight, all you cat lovers, that was for you. We need guide cats, not guide dogs. I thought that was pretty funny. Let's see here. Cleo, good to see you, dear. Glad you're up with us tonight. It's already her day over there. The Africans, who are predominantly white South Africans of Dutch, German, French, Huguenot, English, Portuguese, and other European descent, have a strong Christian identity, folks. That's what this is about. It is Christian extermination in South Africa. You got a question or two, comments? You got 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Roll. Dennis says, I see there are 10 states wanting to join Canada. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are, Dennis, it's not off topic. Everything's on topic at the late night show, Dennis. I haven't heard about that, but all I can say is don't let the door hit you in the butt. I hope it's the blue states. Maybe it would do, hey, let them go to Canada. Let Canada pay their bills. Let them states go. Let the Canadians pay their bills. We'll see how long that lasts. It won't last long. But adios amigo. You know, Gavin Newsom tonight's found Jesus. He's concerned about the homeless situation in California, and he's the one that created the homelessness. His family, the Browns, the Pelosi's, the Newsoms. There's another family out there in California that's big, that's been in control of the California politics forever. They're the ones that have created this mess. They're the ones that created the conditions for the wildfires. Do you realize, folks, I heard tonight, this is crazy. Since January 2025, which Trump was inaugurated January 20th, so it was that week of this inauguration, the fires broke out. Do you know how many permits the state of California has allowed to rebuild in Palisades Parks, California? Are you ready for this? 5 months later? 4. That's the only number of permits that have been allowed because Bass and the Democrats have put such strict restrictions on codes and building codes and this blue woke, blue policy of things that they have to do to be able to build. 4 permits to rebuild. So, you Californians, this is who you elect. This is what you get. This is what you get. And I know that not all the state voted for Newsom. I know that. But you put dumb blank leaders over you, this is what kind of dumb blank policy you get. And Dennis, as far as I'm concerned, if these states think that the rose and the grass is greener in Canada, adios and take the water hose with you. because you're going to find out it ain't greener. And wait till Canada goes bankrupt and these states start complaining to the Canadian government and belly aching about the conditions. Let the Canadians have it. That's all right with me. I don't. I think it's probably the best. Sometimes the Lord blesses you by people coming, and sometimes the Lord blesses you by people leaving. Trust me, I'm very much aware of that. Sometimes subtraction is a blessing. It's actually an addition, if you get my drift. So if subtracting 10 states that don't want to be Americans anyway, then, you know, enjoy Canada. Enjoy Canada. I didn't hear about that, Dennis. I'll look into that. Anyway, anything else you got to say? Few seconds here. Let's see here. Lisa thought it was funny. The God cat. That's good. Now, you folks in YouTube better pick it up now. If you got something to say, normally when I've got guests, everybody wants to talk and ask questions, and I give you a chance to ask, and I don't get no, I don't get no questions. Stephen says expel Jeffries. They're not going to do that, Stephen. He needs to be expelled, but they're not going to do that. I wish they would, but they're not going to do that. I think sometimes the best thing we can do is let these Democrats talk. Just let them run their mouth. That was childish. What AOC said was childish, and, you know, let them run the traps. Let them run their traps. Well, since I ain't got no questions, and I guess that cat joke got everybody sort of froze. Let's see. Anything else? Corey Aguilar had said something. I want to come back up here. And Cleo also said it too. The color of the carpet is symbolic to the Saudis' country. I thought Trump was being very respectful, and he was. And Joe Biden wore the same color tie. And Cleo said something about this over here too. She said that Saudi Arabia adapted lavender-colored carpets for official state receptions and high-profile visits to reflect the hues of the kingdom's deserts in spring. Isn't that powerful? And I didn't know that, so I learned something tonight myself. So that's interesting. So that's why Trump was in purple and Air Force One was in purple. Susan Prusky says a lot of mental health is so needed. Agree, Chris. Emelina says, is Ilhan Omar getting her concupiscence, Chris? You know, there's a lot of people that think she is. Emelina, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. She should. I guess we'll just have to wait and see in the days ahead who gets what. That's going to come down to Pam Bondi. I hope you've enjoyed both shows tonight. The one thing I want you to take away from this, one thing Brad Johnson said in that first show, I don't want you to let go and not remember. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are being very quiet right now. The FBI is being very quiet. Brad's hope is that they're being quiet because they're getting ready to launch a bomb. Not a literal bomb, but a political bomb. And bring to light some things and perhaps some arrests. We'll see. It may not be that, but that may be why you're not seeing a lot of public things go on. There may be a lot of things behind the scenes. We can only hope. I'll say it again tonight as a close. I'm giving Pam Bondi until July the 4th. I've not said nothing too much negative. I've just let it ride. I've got my own opinion. My only concern with her, I think that she needs to lay off the Fox News events and just be Pam Bondi and do your job. And, you know, the less you can say to the media, the better. Even Fox, they're not your friend. I think that's what scares me with her, and that scares me with the whole Trump administration. They think Fox News is their friend, and they're not. Fox News are turning these people just like that if they do something they don't like. And you can't trust the media. You just can't trust the media, and I think Pam found that out this week. She ran her trap to somebody that she wasn't supposed to and was given basically a private statement about public things that should not have been made public. And if they do have videos of Epstein having sex with kids and with other people in them, it would suffice me as a South Georgia boy that you go arrest those people in those videos. Just a thought. But we're going to wait and see. But it is intriguing that they're a little quiet, so we'll see about that. And don't forget what Bibi Netanyahu said tonight, folks, in that video. The obstacle to peace has been this screaming and call for a Palestinian state. And I hate to tell you, these Abrahamic Accords, there's a clause in there that Trump's calling for the same. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Israel may have, 20 years ago, maybe entertained that idea. I would say they may have entertained it 10 years ago. That's a dead fish in the water. It's dead on arrival. Because Bibi Netanyahu understands you cannot live with the Palestinians as a state. It becomes a monster that you will never fix. And Israel recognizes that. And we should too here in America. All righty. I think we've had a good solid 3 hours with you. Appy Girl, great show tonight. Thank you, Appy. I appreciate that. Chris is just never going to make it as a comedian. I thought that cat joke was fun. I thought the guy cat would have made you laugh on a late night. Now I've offended all the dog lovers. Now I've offended all the cat lovers. I don't know. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. And we wasn't making fun of blind people, so let me say that. People think I'm making blind. We weren't making fun. The issue was the cat. That's what cats would do if they were guiding people around. All righty. I've had a good time with you tonight. Thank you, Magdalene Rose, for staying up late with us. Thank you, Brad Johnson. What a Tuesday night. I'll see you back here in the morning. Actually, later this morning. And I will see you back here tomorrow night on our Faith Show at 8. As of right now, no Faith Chat. Join us on the radio tomorrow. We're always talking the news at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 to 3, on the kstartalkradio.com. And I'll be back here Thursday night with Carla Nicole and another late show. And then Friday night, the return of McJustice. You'll love the McJustice show. You're not going to like the content too much, but you'll like the show itself. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Have a good night out there, and I will see you back here later this morning on the Faith side. All will be Faith on Wednesday. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed.